So here's a graph that you looked at last year. Do you remember graphing 1 over x squared last year? Did you have a name for this graph?
Volcano.
Call this one the volcano? Because like the asymptote that's right here like spews out lava. So this is the 1 over x squared graph, and this is what it looks like. They've got other equations here, and all they're asking you to do is to describe. So a couple of things you're going to find out about your exam at the end of the year. They have some questions that have describe and explain, and that means using words and full sentences. So they're going to expect it on your final exam to explain things in sentences and words. And here we have to describe how the original graph could be translated for each of these ones. And then they want you to talk about these two asymptotes. If I label them, I'll label them in red. We've got the equation x equals 0 and the equation y equals 0. What happens to those asymptotes when you do these translations? So for part A, the first thing we would do in part A is probably get y by itself and rewrite this. And then to think about if this was my parent graph right here, then what's the only thing that's different in this equation? Is the plus 3. And we could explain that in a sentence. The graph of y equals 1 over x squared has been translated. So that's the proper word for moved up and down. They would accept if you say moved or shifted, but that would be the best mathematical word to use. Has been translated 3 units up. So there's your explanation in a full sentence. If you translated things 3 units up, which asymptote changes, which one stays the same? So one of these, here's our 2 asymptotes. One is x equals, one is y equals. Will the x equals 1 change? No. So it will stay at x equals 0. The y equals 1, the horizontal one, will change. It gets moved up 3, so now it's at y equals 3. In part B, again, I'm going to take some time to rewrite this. And the other thing to think about is, how do I recognize my original graph? How do I recognize what my parent graph is? Well, one thing I do is I look for where the x is. Here the x is on the bottom. What's happening to that x? That x is going to get squared. So this is related to the 1 over x squared graph that we had to start with. But what's changed? There's a plus 3 inside the function and a minus 4 outside of the function. So if we were going to explain what happens, the graph of y equals 1 over x squared has been translated three units to the left and 4 units down. That's going to change both of those asymptotes then. So our asymptote that was at x equals 0, it gets moved 3 to the left. It's now at x equals negative 3. And our asymptote at y equals 0 gets moved down 4. It goes to y equals negative 4. So these questions didn't ask us to graph it. You could do that if you wanted to as well. They just asked us to describe what was happening. So from this one, you can do questions 16 and 17.